Hey everyone, it's me, Kelly and Associates. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you aren't already a subscriber, I would encourage you to select that subscribe button and follow us on our journey through all things employee engagement and talent development. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit because I was having a conversation with somebody, a client actually, last week about this very topic. And the topic is, can you learn from self-paced learning or self-paced training? So this discussion came about because we're working on some classes together and we have to go through a formalized process to get them approved. And there was some discussion afterwards, kind of amongst ourselves about, are there some individuals that don't believe that you can learn from a self-paced training class? It begs to me the question, how many of us have ever listened to a podcast? I'm a big podcast listener. In fact, one of my guilty pleasures is I listen to a lot of crime podcasts, so don't let that scare you or anything. But how many of you have learned from YouTube videos? How many of you are watching this video right now and may take something away that's tangible? How many of you read a lot of books? So learning happens all around us. And so I think oftentimes people forget what the crux of learning actually is, and more formalized learning in like a work setting or even a school setting to some degree. But behavior change is at the crux of training. Training is not just checking a box. It's actually about developing a course methodically to foster change. Whether that course is in person, whether it's in a virtual environment, kind of like we're doing right now, or whether it is in person. The development I like to classify is kind of an art and a science. There actually is a methodical approach and a methodology behind adult learning, adults specifically. Adults and kids learn for different purposes and different reasons, but there's a methodology behind adult learning. And then I say there's an art to it, because to really create learning that's engaging and measurable, I think there's a little bit of a finesse and an art to that as well. The thing with any sort of learning, whether it be in a self-paced environment, a virtual live environment, a live classroom environment, there has to be structure and there has to be measurable outcomes. And so to do that, I use objectives to determine what those outcomes are going to be. And so I might say something like, list the contents of a sandwich. If I was teaching someone how to make a sandwich, I can't even make my own sandwiches, let alone teach someone else how to make a sandwich. But using that as an example, list the ingredients in a ham sandwich. At the end of that course, that objective really defines, well, you should be able to list the ingredients. And the behavior change is you should be able to make a sandwich. If your manager were to watch you, you should be able to make the sandwich. I think that it's really important, and I think maybe there is a miscommunication or a misunderstanding about, is having those measurable outcomes and those defined outcomes help establish the flow of that particular class. The other thing with self-paced learning, at least this has been my experience, but it helps if we develop content in smaller little nuggets or smaller bites that cover maybe one particular topic at a time. And so the thing with especially self-paced learning today is people may be completing it on an iPad, on an iPhone. I just specify Apple because that's what I use, but it could be any sort of mobile device. They may be completing it on the train to work, on an airplane, those sorts of things. And so I think it helps to create modules that are a little bit more bite-sized and chunkable, so to speak, because people may be completing these learning programs at all times. I mean, in fact, I can attest to the fact that I sit in bed at night a lot of times. We'll watch training videos or we'll work on different things. And so I think it's important to create training in a way that can be completed in non-traditional spaces, so to speak. And again, I think when structured correctly, people can learn. Using activities to test knowledge and things that require critical thinking, activities that require critical thinking, I think are really helpful to help drive home that particular knowledge that you want someone to walk away with. And it can even, in a self-paced environment, you can develop things that help learners test their knowledge and implement that in a scenario that would be lifelike. I am not an advocate for just having activities for the sake of having activities, but having a learning activity that has a purpose and fills a need and objective in the course, whether it's measuring something, driving home a topic, something of that nature. Those are just a couple of thoughts that I have around self-paced learning. I really think that the self-paced learning methods, asynchronous learning, is an untapped opportunity for a lot of organizations. And I think that a lot of people are really looking today to be able to have some agency over their own learning, when they're able to take it and how they're able to take it. And so I think it's really an untapped opportunity for a lot of organizations. I would definitely encourage you to explore those modalities when appropriate for your organization and for your training. I hope that was some helpful tips for you, or that is some helpful tips for you, I should say. With that, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find me at Kellie Tinnen, or the Kellie Tinnen, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, for instance. And I look forward to seeing you there. Take care and have a good one.